106 for construction. A. General. All box culvert excavation shall be performed as specified herein and shall conform to the established alignment, grades, and cross-sections or other limits indicated in the plans. B. Safety. Provide slopes, benching, sheeting, bracing, pumping, and bailing as necessary to maintain the stability and safety of excavations. Excavation protection is governed by Item 550, Trench Excavation Safety Protection, and Item 551, Special Shoring. C. Excavation. Suitable excavated materials shall be utilized, insofar as practicable, in backfilling around a box culvert, or other drainage structures or in constructing required embankments, if applicable. Unsuitable materials below footing grade shall be removed and replaced with gravel subgrade filler as defined in Item 410, Subgrade filler. Excavated materials which are unsuitable for embankments or backfilling, or excavation in excess of that needed for construction shall become the property of the contractor, and it shall become his sole responsibility to properly dispose of this material outside the limits of the project. Proper disposal shall be in conformance with, but not limited to, the following provisions. Do not deposit excavated material within jurisdictional wetlands, and obtain appropriate permits and apply provisions pertaining to soil erosion and stream pollution, when necessary, to meet federal, state, and/or local regulations, rules, and procedures. 1. Hazardous materials. If the contractor encounters hazardous substances, industrial waste, other environmental pollutants, underground storage tanks, or conditions conducive to environmental damage, contractor shall immediately stop work in the area affected and report the condition to the owner's representative in writing. Contractor shall not be responsible for or required to conduct any investigation, site monitoring, containment, cleanup, removal, restoration, or other remedial work of any kind or nature, the remedial work, under any applicable level, state, or federal law, regulation or ordinance, or any judicial order. If the contractor agrees in writing to commence and/or prosecute some or all of the remedial work, all costs and expenses, to include any extension of the contract time, of such remedial work shall be paid by owner to contractor as additional compensation. 2. Existing structures/obstructions. Removal of structures and other obstructions prior to excavation and finishing of all other earthwork described herein shall be completed and paid for in accordance with Item 101, preparing right-of-way unless otherwise stated on the plans. 3. Existing asphaltic materials. All asphaltic material shall be disposed of or recycled at a facility authorized to accept the material for such purposes. 4. Excavation in streets. When structures are installed in streets, highways, or other paved areas, cut pavement and base in accordance with Item 230, base and pavement replacement. Restore pavement structure after completion of excavation and backfilling in accordance with Item 230, base and pavement replacement. Unless otherwise shown on the plans, maintain and control traffic in accordance with the approved traffic control plan or in conformance with the latest edition of the Texas MUCD. 5. Utilities. Conduct work with minimum disturbance of existing utilities, and coordinate work in or near utilities with the utility owners. Inform utility owners sufficiently before work begins to allow them time to identify, locate, reroute, or make other adjustments to utility lines. Avoid cutting or damaging underground utility lines that are to remain in place. If damage occurs, promptly notify the utility company. If an active sanitary sewer line is damaged during excavation, provide temporary flumes across the excavation while open, and restore the lines when backfilling has progressed to the original bedding lines of the cut sewer. 6. Dewatering. Do not construct or place structures in the presence of water unless approved. Place precast units or poured structural concrete only on a dry, firm surface. Remove water by bailing, pumping, well point installation, deep wells, under drains, or other approved method. If structures are approved for placement in the presence of water, remove standing water in a manner that does not allow water movement through or alongside concrete being placed. Do not pump or bale while placing structural concrete or for a period of at least 36 hours thereafter unless from a suitable sump separated from the concrete work. Pump or bale during placement of seal concrete only to the extent necessary to maintain a static head of water within the cofferdam. Do not pump or bale to dewater inside a sealed cofferdam until the seal has aged at least 36 hours. If the bottom of an excavation cannot be dewatered to the point that the subgrade is free of mud or it is difficult to keep reinforcing steel clean, place a stabilizing material in the bottom of the excavation. Stabilizing material may be flexible base, controlled low-strength material, flowable backfill, or other material approved by the engineer. Stabilizing material placed for the convenience of the contractor will be at the contractor's expense. D. Backfilling. Backfilling to the top of the box culvert, initial backfill, shall be completed by one of the four methods 1, 2, 3, or 4 below. Backfilling from the top of the culvert to the top of the trench, secondary backfill, or proposed subgrade elevation, shall be completed in accordance with item 400, excavation, trenching, and backfilling. Backfill behind cast-in-place culvert walls shall not begin until the concrete has attained a compressive strength of 2000 psi. Backfill on top of cast-in-place supporting slabs shall not begin until the concrete has attained a compressive strength of 3000 psi. Avoid wedging action of backfill against structures. If necessary to prevent such action, step or serrate slopes bounding the excavation. Place backfill along both sides of culverts equally and in uniform layers. 1 suitable on-site excavated material. Material for backfill shall be placed in uniform layers not more than 12 inches in depth, loose measurement, and shall be compacted to the density specified herein. Each layer of backfill material, if dry, shall be wetted uniformly to the moisture content required to obtain the specified density and shall be compacted to the required density, by means of a mechanical tamper. Each lift of fill shall be compacted to the required density and moisture content as shown below, unless otherwise shown on the plans. Subgrade material density moisture content pi equals 20 equals 95% of max dry density, 2% of opt. Or greater pi 20 equals 95% of max dry density equals opt. Moisture. The maximum dry density and optimum moisture content shall be determined in accordance with TXDOT Standard Laboratory Test Method TEX 114E. Tests for in-place density shall be made in accordance with TXDOT Standard Laboratory Test Method TEX 115E and within 24 hours after compacting operations are completed. If the material fails to meet the density specified, it shall be reworked as necessary to obtain the density required. 2. Select fill. A clean gravel, or gravel approved by the engineer, conforming to the requirements of Article 410(3)b. Gravel of item No. 410, subgrade filler may be used for backfill material from the bottom of the trench to the top of the conduit or as otherwise shown on the plans. The gravel shall be placed in the trench in loose lifts not to exceed 12 inches in depth and lightly tamped to consolidate and seat the mass against conduit and earthen surfaces. A filter fabric shall be placed on the top and the sides of the gravel backfill, initial backfill, between the trench sides as well as the secondary backfill. The filter fabric shall conform to the requirements of Texas Department of Transportation Material Specification DMS 6200. Type 1 filter fabric shall be considered incidental to construction and no separate payment for filter fabric will be made. Where conditions permit and with approval of the engineer, material conforming to item 200, flexible base may be used from the top of the gravel filter bed to the top of the box culvert. This backfill material shall be placed in uniform layers not more than 12 inches in depth, loose measurement, and shall be compacted to the required density. Each layer of material, if dry, shall be wetted uniformly to the moisture content required to obtain the specified density and shall be compacted to the required density by means of a mechanical tamper. Compaction of the flexible base shall be such that the density of each layer shall be not less than 95% of the maximum dry density as determined by TXDOT Standard Laboratory Test Method Tex 113E, unless otherwise shown on the plans. 3. Controlled low-strength material, CLSM. CLSM shall be placed by direct discharge from a mixer truck or other approved method. A minimum of 30 psi at 3 days and maximum strength of 800 psi at 28 days is required. There is no separate pay item for controlled low-strength material, unless shown on the plans as a separate pay item for culvert backfill. 4. Flowable backfill. When shown on the plans, backfill the excavation with flowable backfill that conforms to item 413, flowable backfill to the elevations shown on the plans. Prevent the structure from being displaced during the placement of the flowable backfill and prevent flowable backfill from entering culverts. There is no separate pay item for flowable backfill material, unless shown on the plans as a separate pay item for culvert backfill. E. Quality control. After each layer of embankment backfill or flexible base is complete, tests as necessary will be made by the engineer. If the material fails to meet the density specified, the course shall be reworked, as necessary, to obtain the specified compaction. Should the backfill, due to any reason or cause, lose the required stability, density/moisture, or finish before the next lift is placed, it shall be recompacted and refinished at the sole expense of the contractor. Excessive loss of moisture in the backfill shall be prevented by sprinkling or other approved methods. 106.5 Measurement. Accepted box culvert excavation will be measured in its original position and the volume computed in cubic yards by the method of average end areas in accordance with the line, grade, and limits shown on the plans. Backfill will not be measured for payment unless a specific line item titled Box Culvert, Backfill, which identifies the type of backfill and quantity, is shown on the plans. Filter material will not be measured for payment. Excavation diagrams on the plans take precedence over the provisions of this article. Cutting and restoring pavement will be measured by the square yard as shown on the plans. Excavation below pavement or base will be measured as structural excavation of the pertinent type. 106.6 Payment. This item shall be paid for at the contract unit price bid for box culvert excavation and backfill. Replacement of unsuitable material with gravel subgrade will be paid for under item 410, subgrade filler. Cutting and restoring pavement will be paid for at the unit price bid for cutting and restoring pavement under item 511. Work completed to repair damage to base or pavement incurred outside the limits shown on the plans, or the limits authorized by the engineer, will not be measured for payment. Price bid shall be full compensation for all work herein specified, including excavating all material, backfilling, compacting, furnishing all materials, equipment, tools, labor, and incidentals necessary to complete the work. 106.7 Bid item. Item 106.1, Box culvert excavation and backfill, per cubic yard. Item 107 Embankment. 107.1 Description. Furnish, place, and compact materials for construction of roadways, embankments, levees, dikes, or any designated section of the roadway where additional material is required. 107.2 Materials. Furnish approved material capable of forming a stable embankment from required excavation in the areas shown on the plans or from sources outside the right-of-way. Provide material meeting the requirements of Type B unless one or more of the following types is shown on the plans or directed by the engineer. A. Type A. Granular material that is free from vegetation or other objectionable material and meets the requirements of Table 1. Table 1 Testing Requirements. Property TXDOT Standard Laboratory Test Procedure Specification Limit. Liquid limit. Tex 104 E equals 45. Plasticity Index, pi. Tex 106 E equals 15 bar. Linear shrinkage. Tex 107 E equals 2. The linear shrinkage test only needs to be performed as indicated in TXDOT Standard Laboratory Test Procedure. Tex 104 E. B. Type B. Materials such as rock, loam, clay, or other approved materials. C. Type C. Material meeting the specification requirements shown on the plans. D. Type D. Material from required excavation areas shown on the plans. Retaining wall backfill material must meet the requirements of the pertinent retaining wall items. 107.3 Equipment. Provide applicable equipment to conduct work as described in this specification or as specified on the plans.